Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. For today's video, we are going to be looking at the latest, I think it's the latest, I don't think they've come out with anything else just yet, although they may have done by the time this video comes out, but one of the latest palettes from W7. This is the Total Eclipse Pressed Pigment palette. They did send this one to me in PR and asked me if I'd be interested in trying out, and when I realised what it was, I was really excited, because as it turns out, it is a palette for this guy, the Huda Beauty Mercury Retrograde, which is a gorgeous palette and also just stupidly expensive. No one needs to spend that kind of money on a palette except my boyfriend when I asked him for this for Christmas, so thank you. Appreciate that, because for once we can actually do a palette comparison. I have obviously already got the look on. I did one palette on each eye so that we can see how they perform. So yeah, we're just gonna do things like I usually do with my reviews. We're gonna go through the details of the palette first, then we'll do some swatches, the tutorial, and then my final thoughts on them, see how they compare. Just before I jump in, I just wanna mention that I've made a slight change to my lighting. I have added my ring light back in, and I've also played around with the white balance a bit so the colors should be a little bit more realistic. I'm absolutely boiling because I now have 3 lights up instead of 2, but I would love some feedback. Do you think this looks better? Do you think it's not? Is it too dark, too light? If you have any thoughts, definitely let me know in the comments. Anyway, let's jump in. So this is the W7 Total Eclipse Pressed Pigment palette. I don't know about you guys, but every time I say the name, I end up with a song stuck in my head, and if you guys don't know what I'm talking about, I suddenly feel really old. The palette came out on the 5th of June, and can we appreciate the gorgeous packaging? I'm pretty sure I let out a squeal of excitement when I saw it. The packaging for this one is cardboard, so it does feel super lightweight. On the front we just have the name, and then we do have the total weight of the palette, which is 18 grams. Then on the back we have some more details. So as always with W7 palettes, we do have a diagram on the back. All of the shades are numbered, and then we have the separate ingredient lists over here. Now, one of the things that I did do when I received this palette was just to compare the ingredient lists to the other W7 palettes that I have. They are different. So this is not the same formula as the neon palettes or the whatever palette. I don't know if they have it in any other palettes that they have, but for me this is a new formula. As this is a pressed pigment palette, we of course have a note on the palette saying that it is not safe for the eye area. That is a warning that you always get with pressed pigments. I always use them on my eye area, I'm fine, but if you do have sensitivities, it can be worth doing a patch test just in case. And then finally we have the shelf life after opening, which is 18 months. So on the other hand, we have the Huda Beauty Mercury Retrograde over here. You will notice that it is a little bit smaller than the W7 palette. The packaging here is plastic and it feels really heavy in comparison to the W7 one. We don't have any information on the front other than the name and the brand, and I believe it's always Huda that you actually have on the front of her palette. We do also have a similar reflective packaging. I mean, both of them look absolutely gorgeous. I think both brands have done really well on that. On the back we have some slightly different information. We do not have the ingredients. We have a short description of the palette available in different languages. We have the shelf life after opening, which is 24 months. We have her social media information. We do have the weight, which is 16.1 grams in total, which means that you are actually getting less product than you are in the W7 palette. With W7 you're looking at exactly 1 gram per shadow, while in the Huda palette you are looking at about 0.89 grams. The biggest difference between the two palettes is of course the price. The W7 Total Eclipse comes in at £9.50, which I have to say I was really impressed by. I thought it would be more along the £12–13 mark. By comparison, the Huda Beauty palette is £58. The W7 palette only comes in at 53p per gram, which is really good value for money, while the Huda palette comes in at £3.60 per gram. So that is a huge difference. Just in terms of the amount of products that you're getting and the value for money, the W7 palette definitely wins there. So when you open up the palette, this is what it looks like, and it's just as gorgeous on the inside as it is on the outside. You do get a mirror in this one, which I was really surprised by considering how lightweight it is. You then have the 18 eyeshadows, and the names are printed on the palette, which I always love. You do also get a brush in this palette, which is one of the reasons that it is bigger. It's basically a dupe of the Anastasia brushes that you get with their palettes, so they've decided to include one in here as well. I personally don't really care about having a brush in the palette. So then this is the inside of the Huda palette. We have a nice big mirror again, and then below we have the eyeshadows. Again, the names are printed on there, and as you can see, there is no brush included with this one. So that is it for the details of both palettes. So we're now going to jump into the swatches, and we're going to see how those shades compare to each other. So what I'm going to do here is swatch each palette side by side so that we can really compare the two shades. I'm going to do the W7 palette first and follow it up with the Huda. So let's get to it. Wow, that first shade feels so buttery, and that shade is called Orbit, and then below it we have Cosmic. Both very, very pretty. I do think personally that it is quite a basic shade of pink. In terms of how they compare to each other, they're both pretty shimmery, both very, very reflective. The W7 one feels a bit thicker. It felt really buttery when I dipped my finger in. The colours are also not identical, so the Huda one does feel a little bit cooler. Other than that, they compare pretty well. So up next from the W7 palette, we have Galaxy, which is a matte shade, and then we have Utopia. Again, both really, really pretty. They've both swatched really, really well. Both have a good amount of pigmentation. I feel like the Huda one looks maybe a little bit pigmented. That could be because it's a slightly deeper orange. Next up we have Luna. Again, this one was really, really, really buttery. And then Ultraviolet. Both really, really pretty. The Huda one, just a little bit more intense, a little bit darker. Then we have Big Dipper. And then from Huda we have Nebula. These two are very different formulas. Big Dipper, you can see nowhere near as intense, nowhere near as shimmery, whereas Nebula is a glitter. Next up we have Astronomy. Oh, very chunky, but look at that. And then we have Mercury. Both stunning. Again, the Huda one, a little bit more intense, but where Huda is the more expensive palette, I kind of expect the shades to be a bit better. And then the last shade on the row, we have Zodiac. And in the Huda we have Haze. Both really, really comparable. You can see again that the colour isn't identical. It's actually the W7 one that's cooler in this case, and it does have a bit of a chunkiness. There's definitely more of a chunkiness to the W7 shadows so far. On to the next row, and I'll be straight with you guys. It is a lot less exciting than the first one because this is a lot more neutral and also has more matte shades. So to kick us off, we've got Milky Way from the W7 palette, and then we have Off Balance. So quite a big difference in pigmentation between these two, I would say. Off Balance has definitely swatched a lot better. It's also a slightly darker colour, and it is a lot more cool toned again. And we do have another shimmer next, so we have Solar. Absolutely gorgeous. And then Galaxy. I mean, these two are pretty bang on. I wouldn't know the difference if they were on the eye. I think they look practically identical. Let's carry on with the mattes. Next up we have Oracle, which is the pale pink, and followed by Libra. I mean, these two are not remotely the same colour. The Huda one comes out almost a bit more lavender, while the W7 one is more pinky. We then have Cassiopeia. Very, very chunky, followed by Crash. Not too much difference, they've swatched pretty similarly. Huda one, a little bit more cool toned, but I think if these two were on the eye, I wouldn't know the difference. Next up we have Hercules, and then we have Momentum. Again, the Huda one, a little bit more intense. The last shimmer, which is Orion, and then from Huda we have Supermoon. Both really pretty, both very, very reflective. Not really much to say on camera, they look pretty similar really. So we are finally on to the last row. So the first shade we have is called Latitude in the W7 palette, and then we have Vortex. I would say that the W7 one swatches better. You can see that the Huda one has a bit more transparency. Next up we have Little Dipper and Hot Mess. My arm is really starting to hurt, so I'm just going to hold it up for a second. Again, I think the W7 one swatches better this time. The biggest difference is the colour. The Huda one, so much more cool tone, so much more berry tone, and the W7 one leans more pink. Back to the shimmers now, and we have Horizon. Again, really, really buttery when you dip your finger in. And then Supernova. I mean, really, really, really similar. Just swatched like that, you can't really see a difference. Next we have Constellation. not a great swatch, followed by Karma. Not amazing on either of them. The Huda one definitely swatched a bit better. I mean, it's just literally a light brown, that's it. Next up we have Bronze Age, and then we have Gold Glitch. Both stunning, both very reflective, definitely not identical dupes. One is called bronze, one is called gold, and that's exactly what I'm seeing on my arm. And finally we have our last shade. We have Andromeda. Again, we do have some chunkiness to it, and we have Frazzled. They look the same. Some of these metallics, you can't tell the difference. They swatch so similarly. I think it's time to jump into the tutorial so that you guys can see how they actually perform. So let's just jump straight in and you guys can see how I got this look. Alright guys, as always my eyes are primed with my P. Louise base, and I've taken it quite far out into my temple because today we're going to go for a more winged out look, which obviously you guys know because you've already seen the makeup at this point. I'm going to be doing the W7 palette on this side and the Huda one on this side. So on the W7 side, I'm going to start off with the shade Little Dipper. Struggling to pick it up a little bit. This is a Sigma E36, and I'm just going to use that to run the colour through my crease and start winging it outwards. It's not really doing a lot. What I might do is trace that on kind of quickly and then go back in with a different brush. And then I'm also just going to go in the outer corner. Again, this isn't really packing anything on, but I just want to draw in the bottom of the wing. I've got the shape, that will do. So now I'm going to jump into a Zoeva 231. Yeah, this colour doesn't pick up very well at all. I'm just going to use that to pack the colour on. Okay, there we go, that's doing a better job. I feel like I can normally get away with the Sigma E36, but I just felt like with this shade it was going to take far too long. And I think actually I'm going to have to take it up a bit higher because I am going to cut my crease, and you guys know how high I have to take my cut crease. The wing isn't perfect, I'll come and fix that later. The most important thing that I wanted to do right now was pack on the colour. That's fine, it's quite a nice colour. So I'm going to do the exact same thing on the Huda side. So in this palette, the shade is called Hot Mess. I think it picks up a little bit better. There is absolutely no kick up in this one. Let's see what happens when I try and pack on. I would actually say that's going a little bit better than it was on the W7 side. You'll also notice that the colours are completely different. I have sat down to film this video a couple of times this week, and it's just been so hot, especially under the lights, that I've just had to give up. But I did buy a mini USB fan, and this might actually be the best purchase I've ever made. You can just hold it like that. I'm just going to take a Zoeva 231, even though I feel like I've been building that up a lot more easily, just so that I'm doing the exact same thing on both sides. It does make it a little bit more pigmented as well. Okay, there we go, so that's both colours on. I would say that the Huda side was maybe a little bit more pigmented. I felt like it was picking up a little bit easier, it was blending out a little bit easier, especially with the Sigma E36. So we're going to go into the next colour. I'm going to take a clean Zoeva 231, and I'm going to go into Constellation, I think. Picks up a little bit easier, I would say. We're just going to blend out with that one. Don't really know if I can see anything. No, I can kind of see it. I do find that the Huda shadows blend out together and look diffused a lot more easily than the W7 ones do. So I'm going to work in really small sections here so that I'm not picking up too much product, and I'm really focusing on that blending and I'm not ending up with harsh edges. That's quite a nice blend actually. I don't think this is a combination of colours I've tried yet, and I think they work quite well. Gonna go in a little bit more. Still want to be able to see that colour. I'm going to take a Sigma E36. This is just the one I was using before, and I've just given it a bit of a white. I'm going to come and blend the lower edge out as well, I think. Yeah, I'm not finding that the Sigma brush picks these up well at all. So very faded. I'm going to go in with a bit more of Little Dipper right into the wing because I feel like maybe it's getting a bit lost. And then you know what, I'm going to use Constellation on the Sigma E36 to blend it out. I feel like I'm going to end up with a really patchy wing, which I don't want. So on the Huda side, I'm going to be using Karma. So again, I'm taking a Zoeva 231. Seems to pick up pretty well. I'm going to do the exact same thing and just blend. See, I just find that it's just blending a lot more easily. See like how much quicker I've just done that on this side? I mean, at the same time, this is the more expensive of the two palettes, so I definitely expect it to work a little bit easier. And then same thing again, I'm gonna go back into Hot Mess, deepen that up. And then what I'm going to try and do to just really blend it out and try and get rid of that patchy wing, I'm going to go into Hercules on, this is the wrong brush. I'm going to go into Hercules on a Morphe M330, which is a really nice soft brush. And you guys have heard me mention it several times, but it's just really nice for softening out the edges of your eyeshadow and really blending it out really nicely. Something's going horribly wrong with this wing. Take a bit more of Constellation. Blend out again. I feel like it looks a lot nicer on camera than it does in real life. Just literally going back in with Little Dipper to try and kind of bring it back. I just feel like it looks really messy. So on the Huda side, I'm going to go into Momentum. Doesn't necessarily need it, but I just want to make sure that I'm doing the exact same thing on both sides. Again, I'm just going to get in with a bit of Karma. And then some more Momentum. Yeah, a little bit disappointing on the W7i right now, but I have tried to film this video so many times at this point that I am not going to give up. We're going to see if we can bring it back. I am just going to go into the brush I used with Little Dipper. I think it's this one. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to bring some more colour into the outer corner. So I'm just packing it on right here. And then same with Hot Mess on the Huda side. So I'm going to go and do my cut crease off camera, that way I can turn the fan on and cool down a little bit because I just can't get over how warm it is, and then when I come back we'll fill it in together. Alright guys, so my cut crease is on. I've gone for a half cut crease but that wings out slightly because I thought maybe doing something different would help inspire me. And you know what, now that I've got this on, I feel a little bit better about things, so I'm not ready to give up just yet. I am going to go into some shimmers now. They are all so pretty. Which ones am I going to use? Let's try Orion, which is super chunky. It's almost like a creamy-ish formula. You can see it on the brush. So I've just taken that on a small flat brush and we're just going to go in with it at the front of the cut crease and all around the top, bringing it right up into that wing. It's literally falling on my face. I think when it comes to the shimmers in this palette, I would use them before doing your face makeup, although I kind of feel like they're so chunky that if you do have any fallout and you've already got your foundation on, you could probably wipe them off fairly quickly. Kind of ended up going in a diagonal, almost kind of down from the wing that way, if that makes sense. So I'm not going to do the whole thing. And then on the Huda side, I'm going to go in with Supermoon, just on a similar flat brush. Again, this is pretty chunky, but I don't feel like it feels creamy. No, it's still pretty chunky. I don't know how much difference you can see on camera, but I do feel like in real life, this side is just a bit nicer. Like, yes, they are both equally chunky, but it also is more reflective, more shimmery on this side. And then this, it's almost kind of not as exciting, basically. And next, I'm gonna go into Horizon from the W7 palette. And that's just gonna be the rest of it. This one has like a nice duochrome, but again, it doesn't pick up super easily. Actually, I'm not gonna blend the two in together. I'm gonna stop and then I'll add another colour in the middle. This one's maybe a little bit too warm compared to Little Dipper, which I'm gonna take a little bit more of on my Zoeva brush. And I'm just gonna come in to blend. Okay, that doesn't look too bad. That's quite nice actually. So again, just gonna do the exact same thing on the Huda side. The shade on the Huda side is called Supernova. Oh my god, it picks up like butter and it just deposits so well on the eye. Like, it's definitely a lot more effortless. And then again, just taking Hot Mess on a Zoeva 231. Those two shades are definitely the same colour, but I feel like this one almost looks a bit faded and this one is just like bam, it's just a lot stronger, a lot more reflective. I am gonna blend the two shades in together and I'm gonna take Orbit. I'm still using the same brush, I'm being really, really lazy. And I'm just going over the middle. It's not really doing anything. I probably should have done Orbit first and then finished everything off with the last shade, but I didn't think I'd want to use another shade. I think I'm going to go in with a bit more of Orion as well. Things are looking chunky on this side, but I am layering a lot of product on now, to be fair. So now on the Huda side, I'm going to go in with Cosmic. Let's see what happens here. I would also say that Cosmic definitely isn't my favourite shimmer in this palette because I do feel like it's pretty basic, whereas some of the other shades are just a bit nicer. I don't think it was the best idea on either eye, to be honest. And I'm just going to use the Sigma E36 from Hot Mess again. Finish blending. Let's do the lower lash line now. So I'm just going to go and prime that really, really quickly and then I'll be right back, basically. Okay, there we go. So I am going to go back into the W7 palette. I'm just taking another flat eyeshadow brush and I'm going to go in with the shade Latitude, and this one is super pigmented. It picks up really, really easily and there's loads of kick up in the pan. I would say that one feels a bit closer to some of the other formulas, and I'm going to come and get that in my lower lash line. Don't really have anything to say about this shade. It works pretty well. So in the Huda palette, the shade is called Vortex. Picks up pretty similarly, I would say, but there is no fallout whatsoever. I don't really tend to care about kick up in a pan, but I know some people do. Some people find it really wasteful, and especially when it's an expensive palette like the Huda one, you might really feel like you're wasting your money. So I will say on the bright side, I do not find that to be the case with that one. I also actually think that I am having to dip my brush in a lot more for this one. I would say that the W7 one is more pigmented. Now I'm just going to go back into Little Dipper on the W7 side with my Zoeva 231. Gonna blend. The other thing that I do want to say as well is that Latitude shade, or I think it was Vortex in the Huda palette, that is the one dark shade in the palette, and I feel like that's something that you really need to think about. Whichever one of these you're using, you always end up deepening them up with these ones. Just something to bear in mind with this palette. So again, just blending out with my Zoeva brush. Oh, I think that kind of felt easier to blend out on my other eye, you know? That's interesting. Oh, I've made a mess. Alright, I'm going to go into Momentum to finish that off. So now back into the W7 palette, into Hercules. I'm going to do the exact same thing. Yeah, I think I prefer my lower lash line on this eye. I think I want to do some liner. I think a wing could look quite nice, but I also kind of don't want to risk it. So I think what I'm going to do is do a smoky liner, and then I'm going to go back over it with the darkest shade in the palette. I have just added a couple of drops of my Revolution Pro mixing liquid to my Inglot gel liner, and I'm taking it on my Pro Arte Master Stroke Series 60 in the side at treble, and I am just going to line my lash line, so getting that nice and thin at the front, and then getting thicker as you get to the end, and finishing a little bit before my outer corner. And then once I've done it on both sides, I'm just going to take my Sigma E36 just to pat that in. And then actually I'm just going to go in with the Zoeva brush that I used for the first shade. I'm going inwards because I just find that that stops you from extending it too far out, and then outwards and then inwards, just kind of back and forth. I'm just going to take a little bit more of Little Dipper just so that that outer corner doesn't get too dark. Then exact same thing on the Huda side. I don't know why, but I'm almost finding it easier to blend into the shadow on this side. Maybe it's because the shades are a bit darker and cooler toned. And then I'm just going to go into the flat eyeshadow brush that I used with Latitude on the lower lash line, and I'm just going to come pat it on over the liner. Doesn't make a huge difference. I should maybe have done this a bit sooner when the liner wasn't as dry. And then back to blending that outer corner out because it's just darkened it a bit. Not quite had the result that I wanted. I mean, it's toned it down a little bit from just being black. I'm just going back over that lower edge with a little bit of Hercules. Okay, so again, exact same thing on the Huda side, going in with Vortex. Yeah, it's not really doing what I want. Maybe using a coloured P. Louise base, or even the black P. Louise base maybe would have been more effective. But again, I am just finding things easier to blend on this side. Like that's it. Like I don't really feel like I need to do any more over here. Maybe a tiny bit. Yeah, I'm just finding everything just a bit easier on this side. Do I have a plum eyeliner? This is from Academy of Colour. It was an eyeliner set. It's just a plum one. It's maybe a bit more grapey, but let's try it. No, that's disappointing. Okay, never mind. I'm gonna go in with the Inglot liner. We'll just have to go for a black waterline, and then I definitely will pick up some more shades because I do like this eyeliner. I'm just using an old square liner brush for that. And then what I'm just going to do is just run the flat brush that I used for the darker shade just through my lash line, kind of blend it into the eyeshadow. Otherwise I find it just like creates this really harsh line, whereas if I do this, you know, it's not as harsh basically. Right, so I think that's going to be it for the eyes. I'm going to do mascara and lashes, and I think I will add gems because I'm not massively happy with this look, so I want to do something to kind of brighten it up. And then obviously I'm going to do the rest of my base, so all of that I'm going to go and do off camera, and then when I come back I will give you my final thoughts on this palette and how it compares to the Huda one. Alright guys, here is the finished look. I have to say that I am actually not mad at it. I actually kind of like it. When in doubt, add gems. Literally, it just makes everything better. I feel like it's made it look like a bit more of a festival look, even though there are no festivals at the moment. I feel like it's just kind of kicked it up a notch. I thought I'd try putting gems on my under eye as well, and that was actually a really, really bad decision because all that's happening is they're just getting stuck in my creases, but they're also kind of covering up how bad my concealer is right now, so I'm also not mad at that. Right, this palette, where is it? I'm not going to beat around the bush, I'm just going to go ahead and say it. This one is not my favourite palette from W7. If we just look at it from the point of view of being a dupe for the Huda palette, it's absolutely fine. The colours were slightly different, but I think I do kind of prefer this side because it's a little bit more pinky. This side's a little bit more purpley, so some colours aren't identical. And the shimmers, they're definitely nicer in here. They just have a bit more of a wow factor. It looks kind of a little bit crumbly on both eyes. It's starting to look a bit textured, but I think it looks worse on this one because that really light glittery shade was so chunky. So yeah, I have forgotten how to speak. The quality in the Huda palette is definitely higher, but then it is a really expensive palette. Like I said, I want it to be really good quality for that price. Everything just kind of blended a little bit easier, everything's a bit nicer, but at the end of the day, this one's super cheap. So if you really want the color scheme from the Huda palette, but you can't justify it, which is exactly the situation that I was in, this is fine. This is a dupe. In terms of this palette itself, compared to other ones that I've tried from W7, it's just not my favorite. I feel like maybe the formula in this one is different because they are more pastel shades, but it also didn't feel like a pressed pigment palette. It's not the worst palette I've ever tried. There are definitely worse ones out there. It's just not been my favorite from them, and I'm a little bit disappointed. The other thing that I want to say as well is that I do find these palettes difficult to use. So I mentioned earlier that you only really have 2 dark shades and then everything else is just kind of on the same level. And what I actually found is that I really struggled for inspiration with this palette. You guys, I have tried to film this video, I don't even know how many times anymore, and every time I have washed the look off because I hated it. I do really like my Huda palette. I like that I have it, and what I really like it for is like a really simple eye look. Like I'm popping into town and I want some shimmer, or I'm going out but I haven't got the time to do all of this, so you know, you can just do like one of the browns in the crease or one of these, some more pinky ones, and then swipe on some shimmer on your lid, 1 or 2 colours, and you're done. And it's so easy and it looks really beautiful. But when trying to come up with some more creative look, something more inventive, I really struggled. So do bear in mind with this palette, and this is obviously the case with both of them because they're the same colour scheme, if you were to block out the top few shades, that's actually really neutral. That is just something to keep in mind. Again, you know, if you really wanted this, I do like having it in my collection. The shimmers are beautiful, but if you're on the fence, you know, you might just be better off getting the cheap one. However, if it's in your budget, you really want it, yeah, I mean, the shimmers are really gorgeous. I just think there's a lot of thinking involved in buying this particular palette because it's so expensive. So yeah, overall, I guess I am a little bit disappointed by this palette. I am so thankful to W7 for sending it to me, and I'm so happy that they've made it because we really needed a dupe for that Huda palette in the UK because it is just so expensive. It's just not my favorite, and I prefer other formulas by them. I'm definitely going to try and do some more videos of it because it is fun. It's a really nice color scheme, and I really like, I can't highlight enough how much I love that we finally have a dupe for the Huda palette in the UK. I just think that they have done other palettes better before. Alright guys, I hope as always that you enjoyed the video despite the little bit of stress that I experienced in the middle, but we clawed it back, and that is what counts. If you enjoyed the video, then do please make sure you give it a big thumbs up, leave me a comment letting me know what you thought of it, and of course hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out on my next videos. I'm finally feeling the inspiration coming back to me, so I am gonna try and get some more content out there for you guys. Thank you so much for your patience with me, and I'll be seeing you all on the next one. Bye guys.